Hey, welcome to the Marketing Stack. I want to tell you a little bit of a story about my debt from a few years ago. I had borrowed some money to invest in a business which actually didn't quite work out. The person that we invested the money with actually didn't fulfill on her promises. And so what happened was I took a bunch of money, took a few loans, and gave the money over to the person who was supposed to fulfill on them, and well, she didn't quite fulfill. And so that was one loan, or actually two or three loans that I had taken, which was quite a bit of money. And obviously those loans were personal loans from the bank, they were credit cards, they were other sorts of loans. And at the end of the day, I just had to sort of pay those debts every single month. And on top of that, they were normal credit card bills, normal sort of debts that we get into. And in your situation, you might be in student loans. You might have certain debts that you have in your business, or maybe certain debts that you have just in terms of setting up your lifestyle. And so we all have debt at some point or the other. We all have these situations that come up where sometimes we get into a bit of a rut, or we try to go for quick success, and we forget that sometimes the promises that people give us are not quite true. And so in my situation, what ended up happening was I realized that this person wasn't going to fulfill on this. I realized that my job wasn't quite fulfilling the debt. I was basically paying debt off every month, just the minimum amounts that credit cards and the loans needed, but I wasn't making any headway. And I knew that the loans were bad. At that time in South Africa, the credit card companies were asking for something like 22% in interest per annum. And so I realized that no matter how long I was going to pay for this debt, the balance wasn't actually going to reduce because the interest was just so high. So before I left South Africa, when I made the decision to come to Thailand, to move to Thailand, I contacted a debt management company, a debt consolidation company, and I gave them all my accounts, and I said that I'm willing to go into sort of, I was willing to basically hand over all the debt, not be allowed to take any more debt, basically declare not necessarily bankruptcy, but declare myself almost insolvent. I can't remember what the word is right now, but I basically was not able to take on any more debt. Obviously, I had maxed out everything that I had. So either way, the banks were not willing to extend more loans to me. But I took all the debt over to this company, and they said to me that they would negotiate with the banks and the loan companies to reduce the interest rate and give me a period of 5 years to pay the loans off. All I needed to do was sign the contract, pay a monthly fee to this company for the management of the accounts, and make the payments, make the minimum payments that I needed to on the schedule. And I think one of the most important things that they gave me was a spreadsheet of all the accounts and all the expected amounts that needed to be paid for the entire duration, for the 5 years. So I had sort of 60 rows of payments that needed to be made in the spreadsheet, and on the top column, if you can imagine it, along the top columns were all the accounts that I needed to pay. And I think at that point there were like 6 or 7 accounts. Some of the accounts were small balances because the credit cards were really small. Others were larger. And I think in total, if I can put a dollar value to all of it, it was somewhere around $30,000 or $40,000. And while you may be listening to this and think to yourself, well, $30,000 or $40,000 is not a lot of money, but for a South African kid who was just, coming out of a divorce and just started to work online, just started to make headway in this sort of space, in this digital economy, making somewhere like $1,000 a month, every penny counted. But I set myself a goal, and I said to myself, well, I'm going to make sure that every single month these amounts were paid. And they were actually quite easy to pay, purely because the amounts were a lot less than what the original sort of loans, minimum loan requirements were, or payment requirements were. And so that was, I would say, one of the challenges that I had managed to overcome. And that was, I had this plan to work every single month to make sure that I had some money coming in, or at least the minimum that I needed, all the while, taking care of my children, still traveling a little bit, paying my card off to come to Thailand, paying off these loans now that were reduced, or at a reduced interest rate, and finding my way, and really just working every single day to try to earn a living and to make these payments. And so, I wasn't conflicted at all when it came to this situation. I was sort of upset that I had to go into this debt company to help me out, but 5 years later, I can now say that I am absolutely debt free. I've paid every person, every company, even this company that I needed to pay for the loans. They had a final fee at the end of the period, at the end of the 5 years, to settle the final amount, and I was able to pay that without much hesitation. Of course, in my business, I've done fairly well over the last couple of years. It's been a good run for the last 5 years. Worked hard, 80, 90, 100 hours a week, sometimes 7 days a week. Sometimes it felt like 9 days a week. But the fact of the matter is, I think one of the biggest successes, one of the biggest things that I had by way of achievement, was the fact that I was enjoying my work. And working those hours didn't feel like a job. It didn't feel like a chore. And so earning the money, and I had strategies to increase my fees every single month, or every single client. I had systems in place to acquire new clients. I had processes in place to get myself off of an hourly rate and to register a company, and work and skill myself up in digital marketing, and had successes with my clients, which all contributed to me being able to pay the debt off. And that's what I would say is, when you're trying to go towards a goal, when you're trying to settle a piece of debt, for example, use the counter of, like, how are you going to generate income? Because there's two ways to eliminate debt, right? Well, actually, there's only one way to eliminate debt, is you need cash to be able to settle that debt. And the only way to get cash is to get clients, or to get customers, or to earn more money. And so if you're in a job and maybe your money is fixed, or your boss can't give you an increase every month or every 3 months or whatever, try to find a way to increase your productivity. Find a way to increase your efficiency at work. There are ways that you can rise in a company without sucking up to the boss, or doing anything out of the ordinary. You want to do things out of the ordinary, but to impress people. But at the same time, if you're stuck at the job and you can't really progress, or you're doing your best to progress during those 8 hours or 9 hours that you work, you could open a side business. You could do something in the evenings. You could do something on the weekends, that can generate a little bit of cash, whether it's buying and selling stuff, flipping things. You don't have to have a lot of money to start these things. Or you could even just start saving a little bit of cash every single month, whether it be $1 or $2 or $5, whatever you can afford. Even if it's just 5% of what you earn, or 10% of what you earn, whatever it is that you can save, and save to have in as a not necessarily as a nest egg, or not necessarily as a spending, so that you have money for Christmas. Use that money to invest in, or use it to pay down on your debt. And those strategies of actually trying to find a way to settle your debt and to get the debt out of the way is a way to leverage yourself. Now, there's a lot of people that would say, there's, go into debt because you need to finance things. a home, a house, maybe an investment portfolio. Yes, there's good debt and there's bad debt, right? When you've got expenses like a credit card or student loans that you're trying to pay off, those things are not contributing to your life. They're just expenses that you need to get rid of. And obviously, if you've gone to school and you've benefited from that education, then that's fine. That's going to pay off over time. However, you need to be efficient at your work, and you need to find maybe a second or third thing that's going to generate a little bit of activity, or a little bit of work, a little bit more income for yourself. If it's something that you can't necessarily, if you're not getting much from your job itself. So I'm using myself as an example because, I was at a point 5-6 years ago where I never thought that I would be able to settle all these debts. But one of the greatest things that happened was that I wasn't able to pay any more, get any more loans. And so I decided then that, well, if I needed to live cash only without any credit cards, then I wouldn't be able to extend myself. And so I set myself a rule that if I didn't have money in my wallet, or if I didn't have money in my account, then I wouldn't be able to buy the things that I wanted to buy, right? You may need a new laptop. So, all right, maybe borrow one from a friend or buy a cheaper laptop, buy something a little bit more affordable instead of splurging out on something brand new. Buy a secondhand something, if you need a new phone to work on Instagram or to start a little business using your phone or using your laptop. Like, you don't have to buy the latest and greatest thing. Buy the thing that you can afford, and as you generate some income and you start paying off your debt and you start, having a little bit of extra cash, then you can invest in better equipment to support your business. And you don't have to rush into these things. You can take your time and focus on getting the debt free, focus on increasing your income, focus on being more productive. And in that way, you'll find that that strategy and actually recording, I would say record your debts, have a running total every single month of what you owe, what your balances are, how much you can afford to pay, what your income was, how much you've generated. Like, these things to measure. Peter Drucker says what gets measured gets managed. So the only way to manage your debt is to actually keep a running total. Like, sure, maybe you get a statement from your bank every month, but at least have a spreadsheet of sort of the running totals and how much you plan to spend, how much you plan to pay off, how much you plan to save. Like, have that plan and try to follow it as strictly as possible, so that in the long run, even if it takes you 5 years, even if it takes you 10 years, that you get yourself off of that hamster wheel. So with that being said, you're listening to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And come say hello to me on YouTube. Come say hello to me on Facebook, wherever you are. And I look forward to checking you out in the future. Hope you find a way to get debt free and live your life on your terms. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.